False signs of a man's serious intentions. In this video, we'll talk about the signs that women sometimes misread. A man behaves in a certain way, and a woman thinks that he is serious, ready for a long-term relationship, considering the relationship and the woman, in this case, as a future wife, a future mother, and potential children together, and so on. In other words, what the woman imagines. So, it is precisely these false signs that can indicate that a man is not really ready for a serious relationship, that he is not serious. If you observe him closely and don't project onto him what isn't there. Well, let's say, don't put on those rose-colored glasses. So, in this video, we will specifically talk about the false signs. But before we move on to discussing this video, I ask you to hit the subscribe button and like this video, so that it gets recommended on YouTube and as many people as possible can see it. So, the very first and most false sign is when a man loudly and frequently talks about serious relationships. He might have a status somewhere on social media that he is looking for serious relationships. He often talks and emphasizes the word serious. When a man says and articulates the word serious, it means he is not yet ready for that seriousness. In other words, he understands that he doesn't have that he is not yet mature. Perhaps his psyche is not yet developed for any long-term, serious relationships. He might be looking for a woman who will take responsibility for the relationship, while he, let's say, will be more of a follower in the relationship. A man with a developed psyche who is ready to take on responsibility and is prepared for serious relationships will not talk about it on every corner. He will show you, through his actions, meaning words are not necessary. You see, he promised you something, he did it, he said he would help you with something, and he is helping you. If a man is involved in your life, there's no need for the word serious, just don't focus on what he says, just observe that the man is doing everything for his, let's say, future. If a man is invested in a woman and is focused on the relationship developing and lasting as long as possible, and he sees the relationship as a long-term prospect, he won't talk much. He will take action, he will care, he will show up as a man, and at times, he might struggle, possibly dealing with work. In other words, when a man is interested, he suddenly becomes involved in a woman's life. He is ready to be there, he is interested, he wants to do something, so pay attention to actions, not words. If a man just talks about some imaginary serious relationship and keeps repeating that phrase, it's quite possible that he is declaring his unpreparedness for a truly serious relationship. Next, if a man is indeed very charming in his courtship, that is by no means 100% indicator that he isn't serious, no. But it's also not a sign that a man won't leave you after a while. In other words, he might be that kind of guy. He knows how to be charming and give gifts. It's possible that this is a behavior model from his father's childhood, meaning the boy grew up watching how his father courted his woman, his wife. It's undoubtedly possible he learned to be charming and to create the very impression he wants to make. So, a man who gives expensive gifts does not necessarily equal a man who sees you for some long-term perspective, in any way. Expensive gifts do not indeed equal care. A man can show himself that way, and often the men with whom women tie their lives and truly live happily didn't know how to be charming, meaning they didn't know how to speak beautifully, but they took on responsibility, and the woman felt calm and comfortable beside them. An important indicator in a relationship with a man, in a relationship that is developing with a man, is not gifts or some charming gestures, but the feeling of being with the man. If you are in the moment, when communicating with a man, you feel protected, you feel comfortable, you feel like you can be yourself, meaning you don't have to put on a facade. You are you, and you feel good and comfortable right now, and you feel protected, which means he is the right man. A man who gives expensive gifts does not equal the man with whom you can live your whole life, nor is it an indicator that he sees you for a serious relationship. Next, the goal of every meeting is intimacy. So you understand that there hasn't been a single meeting that didn't end in intimacy. Yes, intimacy is actually a consequence, not the purpose. In other words, people meet, they fall in love, they develop some kind of connection, attraction arises, and that is a consequence. But if intimacy is the purpose of your relationship, your meetings, then it's quite possible that, for example, the man is married and hiding it from you, or the man is just comfortable right now and spends all his time with you. In other words, if you don't have dates where you're just walking in the park, eating ice cream, if you don't have just regular dates, and everything is tied to intimacy, then think about it. This is not an indicator that your relationship, let's say, is developing for the long term. Next, too very envious? Many girls have this phrase stuck in their heads. Jealousy indeed means love, But being jealous means something a bit different. It means manipulation. It means possessiveness. It might even mean being a tyrant. And this is not about jealousy, which can sometimes be inherent in absolutely everyone. That is, some situation happened that they didn't like and it triggered feelings of jealousy. That's not it. When you realize that jealousy is hyperbolized, when you're afraid to talk to someone, afraid to ask a man, for example, how to get to a certain place, or afraid to ask for help somewhere. If every conversation with a man is stressful for both you and your man, for you because you're already scared that he might think something up, then this is not about love. This behavior only indicates that things will only get more complicated and worse. Such jealousy grows over time, it increases, and it becomes impossible to, let's say, endure. If at the beginning of a relationship jealousy might even flatter a girl, meaning she likes that the man is so interested in her and is jealous of her even towards every lamppost, over time this will not just irritate her, it will start to oppress and weigh her down, and she will want to break free from the relationship. Moving on, expensive gifts. So, if a man gives you expensive gifts, that again is not an indicator that he sees your relationship as a long-term prospect. It's just his image, it's his desire. He wants to present himself in that way. He loves that moment when he gives an expensive gift. He loves the admiring eyes. So, at the moment when a man gives expensive gifts, he, let's say, boosts his self-esteem. In other words, he gets what he wants from the woman. And the fact that a man gives an expensive gift doesn't mean that he sees you as a prospect for the future. So he might just want to get the emotions he needs right now. Therefore, again, expensive gifts do not equal a serious relationship. Next, not introducing to family or friends. That's a very important indicator. If you have a relationship, meaning there have been some dates with a man, but he doesn't try to introduce you to anyone in his circle, friends, close ones, relatives, mom, dad, then he doesn't see you in his future. When a man finds his own, it's like he's a predator. He sees what he wants, and that's it. He's not ready to let go. He wants to take it and quickly claim it as his own. And then the man acts quickly. He wants to introduce her to his close ones, friends, acquaintances. He wants to present his chosen one. He admires her and wants to show her off. In other words, a man who sees you as a prospect will quickly introduce you to his friends, close ones, and relatives. And sometimes girls start to imagine things when he doesn't introduce them to friends or relatives. They think he's afraid to show her off so she won't be taken away or jinxed, and so on, like he's protecting her. In reality, that's a huge misconception. No one is protecting anyone. If a man doesn't introduce you to anyone, it means he doesn't intend to build any future with you. Next, another indicator could be that he is married. He might be married, and you may not even know it. In other words, he simply doesn't wear a ring, hasn't told you that he has a family, but you have some dates, and you don't understand what's happening in your relationship. Again, he might not introduce you because he's married. Moving on. You are almost always the one initiating meetings, and this again speaks to the man's involvement in your life. If you constantly invite a man out on dates, whether it's to a bar, a cafe for a walk, to go ice skating, biking, or hiking, and he might accept all your invitations, give you compliments, and admire your looks, but he himself isn't engaged, meaning he doesn't invite you anywhere or take any action. This only indicates that you might just be a friend to him. In other words, he enjoys your communication, feels comfortable, shares some things with you, but he doesn't want anything more. He has an image of another woman for family and long-term relationships, and right now it's convenient and comfortable for him to spend time with you, which is why he doesn't take action. If a man is interested, let me repeat, he gets involved, acts quickly, and doesn't disappear for a while. He's afraid that during that time she might think something up, get upset, leave him, so he takes action. Next, he's inconsistent. Well, again, if a man shows up and then disappears, it could indicate his personality issues, like being a narcissist or a manipulator. But if he's inconsistent, for instance, there was a fantastic date where he talked about feelings of love, made some confessions, and emotions were overflowing, and then, suddenly he disappears. And you're already suffering, not understanding what's happening, worrying about where he is and what's going on with him. Then he shows up again, more dates, emotions, and then he disappears again. This doesn't mean he's geared up for a serious relationship. He might even be inclined to be. If he's a narcissist, this is how he, let's say, captures his victim, all of this. But if a man is inconsistent, it's better for a woman not to consider him for a long-term perspective. If you see that he can disappear, show up, and then disappear again, then it's better to make the decision yourself to end these meetings and not build any joint plans. A man who has found his match. A man who has determined that this woman is for him, that he likes her, and that he wants to be with her, will always start talking about some plans. So it can be subtle. He might casually mention that he dreams of having a daughter or a son. Such things indeed immediately show a man's serious intentions towards you. A man won't share his thoughts about his offspring or happy relationships with you if he doesn't see you as a long-term partner or as his life companion. That's all for this video. It was me, Elisa Vardomska. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Write in the comments what you would like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell, and goodbye everyone.